My name is Mary. My husband and I were introduced by our parents, and after dating for a few years with the intention of getting married, we registered our marriage. Since I graduated from high school, I had always been working hard to pursue my dream of becoming a designer. While I worked, I had dreamed of launching my own apparel brand one day. Fortunately, my father was a businessman and an investor, and my older brother, who is many years older than me, started his own company in his 30s, so nobody ever said anything negative about me starting a business. I gained experience as a designer, and I started a company with a few colleagues in my late 20s thanks to that. At first, it was tough even with the help of my father's connections and investments, but after about 3 years, the company had grown into a somewhat well-known one. That's when my father brought up the subject of arranged marriage. "Don't you think it's about time for you to find a partner? I'm not forcing you, but how about this person?" he said and showed me a photo of a potential arranged marriage partner. That person is now my husband. My husband is the son of a person from a company that my father does business with, known for his good character, work ethic, and being a dutiful son who helps with housework at home. However, living with his parents seemed to prevent his relationships from lasting long, and he had reached his current age. He is 1 year older than me. At the time, I found the aspect of a man who can handle household chores attractive, so I decided to go ahead with the arranged marriage. After all, I'd been frequently listening to complaints about husbands from a few married friends. They complained that their husbands leave their clothes everywhere, make them do all the housework because they are just housewives, and their husbands don't listen to them and such. Anyway, for that reason, I thought it would be nice to marry someone who would take the initiative in housework. So, we actually had the arranged meeting, dated with the intention of getting married, and successfully made it to the finish line. Even after we started our married life, my husband remained the same, sharing the household chores. When I was not feeling well, he often kindly took over everything. This may be just one of the ordinary scenes in a household, but I was really happy to be able to appreciate this happiness. But I guess every couple encounters what we did. The so-called rut or stale phase. 3 years into our marriage, or about 5 years from the time we started dating, Before we knew it, our conversations had dwindled, and we only talked when it was necessary. It would have been better if it was just that, but my husband became cold, or rather, he started comparing me with young women and complained more frequently. "Aw, that girl is so cute. She must really care about her beauty." It had been a long time since we had been on a date together, but my husband kept looking at young women, and kept making such comments loud enough for me to hear. If I may say so, young men who are college students or new employees shine brighter than my middle-aged and overweight husband with a pot belly, who doesn't pay attention to his hair or fashion. However, I didn't say it out loud. Once, when I sarcastically returned his sarcasm, he was in a bad mood and didn't talk to me for about a week. He wouldn't say anything about when he was leaving the house or if he was going out to drink that day. So, for me, who made dinner and packed lunches, it was a problem. He could have at least left a note even if he didn't want to talk to me. So, I decided to try as much as possible not to offend my husband. Therefore, even when my husband makes sarcastic comments like this, "Well, you know, I'm in my mid-30s now, I can't compete with young girls in their 20s. I only self-deprecate and laugh. If I did this, my husband would strangely look satisfied saying, "As long as you understand," and it wouldn't lead to a fight. Of course, my heart was wearing thin. After a while, I, with a determined look on my face, said to my husband, "I want to focus on getting pregnant soon. I'm not working by myself, so my company would run fine without me." And like I've told you before, I've invested and have passive income. So I'm thinking of taking it easy on work for a while. When my husband heard this, he grimaced and retorted, "No way, so that means I have to work for both of us, right? What if you don't get pregnant right away?" That's why I said that I have passive income, so we'll be okay. I was about to say something like that to my husband, who doesn't listen to me at all, but I stopped. I was thinking that he would either rebut me with a lame excuse or give me a completely off-target answer. I wanted a child, but it seemed difficult to hope for that. Due to the recent lifestyle with my husband, the difference in values, emotional problems, etc., I felt sorry for my father, but I started wanting to divorce him. As such, several months passed, and our relationship was deteriorating as we were unable to focus on getting pregnant. Me, who wanted a child, and my husband, who didn't care either way. Because I started to retort when I couldn't stand it, we started to fight more and more, and now I'm in a cold war with my husband. Of course, my husband won't talk to me, so I stopped making lunch and dinner for him, as if to say that I won't adjust to his schedule if he doesn't tell me. If he's hungry, he can order delivery himself. Maybe because my husband is being stubborn and won't tell me his schedule, he can't retort to my actions, and the house has become silent except for the sounds of life. This is nearing its end. Just as I was thinking this, I discovered my husband's affair. One day, I finished work early and left the office at 4 o'clock. I stopped by an expensive cake shop I usually don't visit, and my husband came out from it. I quickly turned my face away and pretended not to know him, but I glimpsed at him, and there was a woman I didn't know next to him. "Jennifer, you really love the cakes from this place, don't you?" "Well, lately I've been able to get off work early, so why don't we go for a drink, not just cake?" My husband, oblivious to my presence, drew the woman closer with his arm around her shoulder. They looked like a couple. No, they probably are. At that moment, I knew for certain that my husband was cheating on me with this beautiful woman. Despite having already considered separating, tears naturally welled up in my eyes. It's different to decide to part ways and walk separate paths, compared to separating because of infidelity. I didn't know how to stop the tears that flowed, and I didn't care about my makeup running, and I left the place crying. This happened just a week ago. When I picked up the divorce papers from the city office on my way home that day, I felt an intense emptiness. By giving this to my husband, we can surely divorce, because he is already fostering a love for his mistress. However, I couldn't bring myself to give him the divorce papers. I realized that even now, I still have feelings for my husband. And it felt bitter. I tried to soothe the throbbing pain in my heart by touching it through my skin, but I only felt more miserable. While this was going on, my husband brought up the topic. "We don't need to be a couple anymore, do we? It's okay to divorce, right?" Finally, the word divorce was uttered. However, when it came time to be told straight out, for some reason, I felt a sense of acceptance, and I abruptly halted my swirling thoughts. "That's right. I was thinking the same thing. After all, you have a beautiful girlfriend." I realized that I had said such a thing, and I gasped and put my hand over my mouth. When I nervously looked at my husband's face, he looked surprisingly calm. Then he slowly opened his mouth and said this. "Why didn't you tell me if you knew? Well, this makes it easier to proceed with the divorce, and I've already prepared the divorce papers, so just write your part." Saying that, my husband pulled out the divorce papers, which he had already filled out his part. I didn't expect him to be ready for the divorce. I felt somewhat frustrated, but I accepted the papers and said, "Okay, but there are things like division of property after divorce, aren't there?" I want to prepare for those things, so I need a little time." When I said that, my husband nodded. Since then, I have been busy preparing for the divorce with a lawyer while working. My lawyer said that my husband was having an affair, so we can ask for alimony, and he also said that he would think of some strategy, so we could just discuss and not divide property. I intended to leave everything up to my lawyer, so I thanked him and left the office. But when I returned home, my husband was wearing an extremely irritating smirk as he said this. "You know, I just saw it on the news. The stock you invested $200,000 in, it's plummeted. It's done for. So, you're up to your ears in debt, huh? A woman who's run a company but who's failed in stocks and has no money, she's worth nothing. I agreed to the arranged marriage for your money and your family's wealth, but I'm good now, thanks." With that, he brushed past me and left the house. Since then, my husband has not returned to this house. From that day on, I desperately tried to find my husband. I wanted to submit the divorce papers, but since my husband was missing, it was not so simple. And despite my desperate search, I couldn't find him and my spirit almost broke. I felt like eating something sweet, and I ended up visiting that cake shop. And then I found him. 2 weeks after that day. Finally, I managed to drag my husband before me. "How did you find out where I was? You didn't hire a detective and stalk me or anything, did you?" "No, I searched for you on my own." I don't have time to play along with my husband's jokes. I gave a curt reply to his sarcastic comment, and I swiftly placed the documents that the lawyer had prepared in front of my husband and began to explain. "This is the document related to property division, and this one is about the claim for alimony. Considering you vanished with your mistress and deliberately ran away from me, and also the terrible verbal abuse you subjected me to, I think this amount is reasonable." As I pointed at the amount for the alimony claimed in the document, my husband grimaced. He must be thinking why on earth he should pay such a huge amount of money to me. My intuition was spot on. "Hey, think about it. I'm just an office worker, so there's no way that I can afford to pay this much. I don't want to get into debt for this. Take it back and try again." With that, he threw the documents on the floor. But at that moment, there was a knock on the door in the room. My husband looked puzzled, asking, "Who is it?" But when I responded, a certain person appeared. "It's been a while, have you been well?" Yes, the person standing there was my father. Since our fathers introduced us and we started our relationship, perhaps he felt awkward meeting my father, or maybe because he met my father unexpectedly, my husband's face was clearly stiff. On top of that, because my father was beckoning someone, my husband was watching. And my husband's mistress appeared following my father. Even my husband seemed surprised by this. "Hey, why are you here, Jennifer?" He couldn't hide his agitation. While I was watching my husband, who was panicking, I snickered. My husband seemed to be angry at me for snickering at him. "Why are you laughing? There is nothing funny about this." He spat out, slamming his hand on the desk and glared at me. However, his eyes were wobbly and shaky from the agitation, as he even showed concern for his father and his mistress, so he wasn't frightening at all. That day at the cake shop, the person I met was not my husband, but his mistress, Jennifer, walking with my father. Wondering why the two of them were together, I called out to them, only to learn that Jennifer was the daughter of a prominent company's president, and her father's company had some dealings with my father's company. My father was also close with Jennifer's father, and they were there to choose a gift for her parents' upcoming wedding anniversary. Jennifer, without any sign of panic, told me, You must be the president's daughter. Nice to meet you, I'm Jennifer. I happened to meet your father on the street, and while discussing gift ideas, he invited me to join him," she said. There was no malice in her words or expression, and it became clear that my husband had kept the fact that he was married a secret from Jennifer. I hesitated whether to tell her, but decided there was no use in mulling it over. Jennifer was bound to find out sooner or later. So, I revealed the truth. Upon hearing this, my husband could only stare blankly at us, unable to say a word. Even if my meeting with Jennifer was by chance, it seemed as if fate had no intention of letting my husband's misdeed slide. Furthermore, there was one more piece of shocking news for him. That was, "You didn't know that Jennifer is the daughter of a key client of your company, did you? This pretty much closes off your path to success." When I said this, my husband leapt to his feet in alarm, asking Jennifer, "Is this true?" Jennifer did not make eye contact with him, but silently nodded. My husband staggered and crumbled to his knees, as if all strength had drained from him. "It can't be, why didn't you tell me?" he muttered. I decided to answer instead of Jennifer. "I'm the same way, but when you talk about money and status, people usually approach you for money, don't they? That's why Jennifer didn't disclose that she was a president's daughter, but she didn't mind spending money on dates. You took advantage of this and you used Jennifer as a cash cow, didn't you? Does that sound about right?" As I said this, my husband fell silent, staring off into the distance. It was likely a silent affirmation. "To think that there was a time when I felt even a shred of love for someone like you. During my life, that was my biggest shame. I have absolutely no intention of reconciling with you, so sign this," I said, picking up the documents that my husband had thrown on the floor, and I urged him to sign them. Maybe he had given up thinking about it any further. My husband signed them while he was distorting his face in frustration. Finally, this will end. As I thought this, I started smiling. Just as I was thinking about how to enjoy my new life from now on, my husband, as if making his last stand, gave a weak laugh and said something like this. "Heh, even if you snatch such a small amount of money from me, you're still going to be poor. You're probably having a hard time with the $200,000 loss cut on your crash stocks, right? Aw, when I think about it, it looks like I'll have a better life than you." Even at this point, he was still trying to provoke me. My father, unable to stand it any longer, stepped forward and opened his mouth to say something, but I stopped him. This was a fight that had been picked with me. So, I decided to settle it right away and put a stop to my husband's provocations. "Huh? What are you talking about? Me, poor? Do you think I would invest all my assets in just one stock? I mean, I've even gotten advice from my investor father. I still have $2 million, so how am I poor? Your sense of money is amazing." When I said this with a straight face, my husband's eyes widened in surprise. He probably never imagined that I still had $2 million in assets. However, he himself had agreed to the condition of no property division, and the payment of consolation money was already confirmed. It's too late to go back now. Afterwards, my husband, who had become half crazy, raised his hand to me, and my father immediately restrained him and called the police. Even though it was a civil matter, my husband was arrested for assault because he persistently blamed me and tried to hit me again. And in the process, he also raised his hand against the police officer and was charged with obstructing the performance of official duties. As a result, my husband ended up with a criminal record. Also, his affair was discovered by his company, and because he had hurt the daughter of a key client's president. He will not be allowed to participate in any future transactions with that company. This company is a major client of my husband's company, and if he can't participate in transactions with them, it seems that he can't expect any further promotions. Now, burdened with a large debt from the compensation payments to me, his mental health was ruined and he quit his job voluntarily. He can't even afford to rent an apartment, he has no job or savings, and it seems that he is now living on the street. His spectacular downfall was so great that I couldn't even laugh. As for me, I had decided not to submit the divorce papers until I had him sign the documents related to property division, so the divorce was officially finalized after my husband's trial ended. Now that we're divorced, he is my ex-husband and he is nothing more than a stranger. Whether he's living on the streets or buried in debt, honestly, I don't care. For now, I'm focusing on my work without getting remarried, and I'm hoping to grow my company more and eventually make my company's name known throughout the country.